All right, welcome to Bloom in Full Color, where we live life in high definition. I've got PJ, Adam, and myself, Jennifer Moss, with you.
Matching
nice-
today. Look, we're all sexy.
Early, yeah, I got to do a wardrobe change next episode. But all right, so we are talking.
I feel like
all
we were
things...
wearing the same thing last week.
It happens a lot, actually. I'm fresh out of the gym, so now I've got a cup of coffee.
She smells fine though, just in case. She smells just fine this morning.
I was clean when I got to the gym. I mean, we should be fine. Okay, so we're talking fall gardening. Why didn't you guys kick this off?
So, I mean, it's just, again, we're starting to slow down. It's very nice because the pressure's off of gardening, right? You're not running out there to keep things alive with water and that kind of thing. However, there are lots of stuff that you can do to set yourself up for success in the springtime. What most people get in trouble this time of year, Adam will probably back me, is they do too much this time of the year, right? We're going into the cold. So
what about the people who do nothing?
well,
That is awesome.
those are the people we're talking to. Like Adam and I are the same way. I'm very lazy when it comes to the fall. However,
I want to be prepared. So like, okay, because spring is my busy time,
right.
And I didn't trim my perennials at all last year, and I felt it.
Yeah, you can see them this summer.
Guide me. What do you give? What kind of advice do you give? What is the perfect fall perennial maintenance?
Well, it's a good time to do a little bit of shaping. So let's start with, you don't want to prune or trim back too hard going into the cold, right? You're opening up wounds on trees, on shrubby perennials or woody perennials. You just don't want to allow something that can get in and kill your plant later, right? But it's a great time of year to do some shaping. It's a great time of year to get maybe a couple crossing branches, maybe the stuff that hits you in your face when you walk by, right?
Absolutely.
It's a good time to do a little bit of trimming on a lot of things, and we're talking mostly like woody type shrubs.
What about fruit trees? It's a good time to.
No. Fruit trees are definitely
fully dormant.
Yeah,
you want them fully dormant.
February is when we
right
start.
before their sap starts flowing.
Yep.
February. So
January.
And the cool part about that is you got to wait till the leaves are gone so you can see. That's number one.
January would be fine too, right?
January's still a little cold because you still get those minus something degrees in January. I typically wait till middle of February. Yeah. Still cold, but it's past that super chilling.
Okay.
I wait for those like 55, 60 degree days in February, and those are my fruit pruning days.
Yep. And it's generally early enough. You're not, well, we're buried here. That's no excuse. But most people in February aren't crazy busy. You just start getting a little excited for spring because you get a little sun. You just start going, oh, maybe that's the time to do fruit trees in general.
Okay.
And really hard pruning. You really don't want to do hard, big, heavy cutbacks this time of year on anything.
Okay.
It's just too cold coming up.
So I want to follow up with that. And what he's saying by light pruning is just really like not any, mostly deeper than like 3-4 inches into the plant.
Yep.
Especially up when you have a frosty night coming or like a hard freeze. Don't prune anything close to those nights because that you'll get new buds when you take a cut like that or whatever. That can get sheared off with a frost. So essentially the way I kind of tell my gardeners is just hedging right now is fine. Mm-hmm. Like if you got a boxwood and you need to like clean up that last little scraggly growth for the winter look, that kind of stuff's fine. But don't take your pruners and cut near the main stem of anything.
Stay away from the heart of everything.
Yeah, just you don't want to reach in and make a cut. This is like superficial.
Shrubs,
yeah, you want them
shrubs
as
particularly. Mm-hmm. I'm not an arborist, but in general, you don't want to prune much when the sap is flowing readily. So right now the sap is flowing. It's flowing down into the roots. So any big cuts are going to leak like sap and make a mess, if not invite pest infestation into that wound. So with woodies, I would argue that less is more. And in fact, that's actually what in all my classes, I always say fall is the time where less is more. Leave the leaves in the garden. If you are like us, if you're horticulturists and spring is your crazy time and you want to protect your time in the spring, do your perennial fall cutback. But it really is, as far as benefiting insects and the whole ecosystem of a garden, if you can call it that.
It is an ecosystem.
100%.
It is. It's a novel ecosystem is actually what you read about.
Novel?
Novel.
That's
it's because it's man-made. It's like when they called COVID the novel virus. It's because it's, not to say that was man-made. I have no idea. But read a book.
Political.
Don't ask me about it.
X-Man Udne.
Anyway, but novel is like the scientific term for something that hasn't existed before in time.
Okay.
So gardens have not existed before in time. We can look at rainforest ecology. because it's existed for millennia. But like a perennial flower bed, we don't know which insects are coming in, which ones got pushed out, like all this stuff. So a perennial is a flower bed is an ecosystem, and you want bugs, you want pollinators, you want all these critters, whether or not you like them. Spiders, I'm always an advocate for spiders, but
Spiders are actually very good.
Anyway, the more material, dead, leafy, herbaceous material, which is perennials, the more that you leave, the more housing they have, and the more food source a lot of other critters have, like
Okay.
salvia.
But
I
yeah,
know
so
that
I've
flower buds and seeds, all these perennials that are still stuck to the stems. I mean, those are all things that critters eat, and they need to.
Now, there are some
So-
exceptions to that. For instance, did you have a pest problem or did you have a bug problem this year? You might not want to leave leaves in that area because you are giving them a home
Exactly.
for the winter, right? So, perfect
so if
example,
you had a pest
asparagus. Asparagus is a little susceptible to critters over the winter. So I tend to go in and clean around my asparagus this time of year, just kind of rake the leaves off. February, I'll go in and chop down the yellow ferns, right? But there are some things I tend to focus on the bottom of stuff this time of year. So
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the top. I'm not trying to make a hedge, but I'm like, maybe I'm getting under my potentilla bushes and getting some of the crap out, cutting off some of the ugly stuff from
What
below.
about raspberries?
Well, raspberries are weird because it depends on your variety, right?
Whether it
Certain
fruits on
raspberries, you
old
leave
wood
them
or
alone.
new wood.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. There
I was
are
just
some
asking.
raspberries, you mow them down to the ground this time of year. Literally mow them down to the ground.
And they're fine.
And the next year they're roaring
Okay.
back. Golden raspberries, perfect example. We talked about goldens the other day.
Yeah.
Goldens are ever-bearing. They give you stuff all year, and they fruit on new wood. So you can take your goldens and literally shear them right down to the nubbins right now, and next spring you'll have big, beautiful
Okay.
goldens.
What about, do you cut your peonies in the fall?
Question.
Peonies, peonies, tomato.
With peonies in particular, I now leave the dead. I used to like over manicure them and cut them to like 4 or 5 inches, but because of the way they break in the soil and to me, it's better to have a visual marker of where they are.
Absolutely.
Because when you are stomping around the garden after your early spring
you can do
weeds
some
Crushing a
damage.
crown.
Yeah.
and you step on a peony crown, I mean,
You're never
you'll
going to get it
cry.
back.
You'll
Yeah.
cry.
You will cry.
You will cry,
With
especially
your
if it's like
$50 plant, you
if it's
smack.
a well-established, like nice variety.
Oh.
I mean, there's nothing
Okay.
worse.
Back to less
Okay.
is more. Right?
So that's why first I would leave like, a 6-inch stem on them. But even that, once it cracks in the winter, it falls. And so then you just have a couple little
little
sticks
nubbins.
where the peony was. To me, I think it's better to just leave the
Yep.
leaves,
Yep.
leave
Give
it
a
all so
marker.
that you can see, even when you rake the leaves off in the spring, you can see like, okay, because your peony things are going to drag on the rake and you can.
I say this
it'll
time
be
of year,
like, okay,
tender
there's a
stuff,
peony.
hands off. I mean, that's the way I deal with it.
Yeah.
Woody, hard.
Peony you consider tender?
I really
Okay.
do. And I don't know why it's just a visual look to me, but you know what I mean? To me, woody stuff, you want them as potentillas.
What
That
about
stuff's hard and
what about hydrangeas?
That again depends on which
Variety.
variety of them.
We usually do paniculatas in the arbs.
I leave hydrangeas alone because those
I do
it's a
too.
pretty look in the
those
fall.
flower clusters are
They look nice.
It's a point of interest.
grown. They're a thing
Yeah.
for winter interest.
Okay.
The same thing with ornamental grasses, Carl Foresters, miscanthus, any kind of those. Ravina grass, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Ravina grass is its most beautiful in the winter.
I agree
When you
with
get
you.
purple feathery plumes and in the golden, like kind of
Yes.
weedish plumes of Carl Forester with a snow backdrop and a couple dogwoods
And
with
it's
red
moving
twigs
around
in
in the
there.
wind.
I mean,
Mhm. It's a
you have
pretty
a
winter
garden
garden.
in the winter. It's just
I-
different, but it's color.
have vertigo grass it's so hard to get out. It's definitely an annual here, but it's going to stay in my garden for the
Pretty.
winter
Yeah,
because
I have
those
a
root balls are
question.
nasty.
they're gnarly. So.
I have a question about lavender. So I'm relatively new to lavender.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well-
so lavender is technically a zone 5, the ones we grow,
Yep.
but they don't always come back.
Oh,
So let's
so
definitely pick
I-
his brain on
I
that.
have 3 or 4 varieties, and I want to say 3 of them come back every year, no problem, and the one struggled here. So out of what we grow, I think the majority are perfect around here. Here's my question this year. It was such a weird, long season. Typically, I'm shearing off spent blooms on lavender in like late summer. I have purple, fully bloomed out lavender right now. Is it too late to trim that, or should I be? Because typically I hack those up You don't want to hack them too late. I know
It's
it really
just a
affects
deep
their
cut.
storage.
Yeah, don't touch your lavender in the fall.
Okay.
Other than
the blooms, should I shear off the blooms?
If you want to like take some like hand-sized hedgers over them,
right?
Do that. That's not going to hurt anything. But don't, as much as you can, don't cut
leave them
into
alone.
the greens.
Correct.
Don't,
It really affects. That's how come
and
they
it's
die.
certainly nothing woody.
Can anyone get Rosemary to come back?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's his own
Outside?
6.
Uh-huh.
And
Shut up.
yeah, it's his
It
own
just
6.
needs a little, like in my experience, a little protection from like, because we have predominantly westerly winds here, so just a little protection on the west side. So like if you can finesse
I put it by my front door in my flower bed.
like
So I'm gonna
southwest
see.
exposure.
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see.
When we pulled tomatoes, but I didn't realize it could maybe survive.
So if you have it in a container and bring it in your house, it puts off the prettiest blue
the
flowers
little blue flowers.
in the winter.
Oh, yeah,
and
I love the
then
flowers.
And
if
it's one
you
of those
can
things
get
every
them,
time you roll by, you touch them.
yeah,
it
and
just
then you
smells
can
good.
skewer them. I watched a really good thing with Jamie Oliver this
Sticking 'em
weekend.
through
Where he was
chickens
making
and stuff.
He was in Spain, on the coast, like skewering fresh caught shrimp, and it was just neat. It was
Ooh,
neat.
God,
I didn't realize
rosemary is
Neat.
my favorite.
It's
I like
neat.
rosemary.
Yeah, it will not winter in a pot at all, ever.
No.
Don't bother.
Just
Way too
bring it
complicated.
Not
inside.
even in a raised
Just
bed.
bring it
Not-
inside if
it
you're
needs
gonna
to
do
be
it.
in the
the
ground, and it needs to be mulched, and it
what I was
needs
just
to
gonna
be
If it's in a
protected
pot,
from wind.
bring it inside.
If it has a heavy snow load on it, try to rake that off. I mean, baby this damn thing, and I have seen like 3-4 foot tall rosemary shrubs in the valley.
Wow.
In Twin Falls. Yeah, there's a few of
I
them.
planted tens of thousands of them in Vegas. So
And-
it just always shocks me
Yeah.
when something that does well in the heat
Yeah.
will do well in the cold.
And like my poinsettia friends, I give mad props to whoever can get a rosemary to winter. That's a good
Okay.
horticulturist right there.
That's fair.
And
That's
there-
fair.
yeah, there's some poinsettia people that do that shit too.
So another
I can't. I don't bother. With
I'm not
these
a point
things.
person.
magic time of year for most people. Everybody is in such a rush to rake off their leaves and get rid of them. I use every leaf that falls in my garden. Like I'm a super lazy gardener. So if I don't have to move them, yes, please. But it is literally magic for your vegetable gardens. It's magic for I take them, I rake them right underneath my tree, and that's what I cover my garlic with that I plant in Halloween. Like they are a resource for your garden that most people
Yeah.
put in a bag and give to the grass man, and that to me is a huge waste. Right? They are so valuable.
Yeah.
Just cover your vegetable garden. You'll just have so much less weeds next spring when you go rake them off and start planting your stuff. They are a wonderful resource. Don't waste them. Don't
Yeah.
give them to the trash man.
I would blow them off the lawn into the flower beds.
Yep.
That has always been my ideal
Less
situation.
work, smarter, not
Yes,
harder.
Yep.
lazy gardening,
But
please.
if you're using a blower, do it after a lot of wind. You got to dry all those leaves out or they don't pick up. But blow the leaves into the flower beds, mow the lawn, and be done for the year. If that's all you have time to do, you will be okay.
Oh, and it's
Not
so good.
touching anything else.
Okay.
Correct.
You might have to in the spring get into some mushy debris. That's really the sacrifice kind of here. If you don't do all your perennial prune back, sometimes things get mushy in the spring if we have a wet year.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
the biggest drawback.
Mhm.
And some people do want their whole thing cleaned up in the fall, and they want it to be plug and play in the spring. And that would be what I was saying for people like us. Cut back every single perennial that's not a subshrub or a shrub down to the ground.
That's what I'm doing
Rake
next.
everything out, and then it's just essentially ready to plant when the snow melts. And
Yeah.
that's a method too. It's just pick your poison. But if you want to be lazy right now, I highly recommend it.
Not just lazy. I feel like it's lazy and smart because so mulching is beneficial for almost every single plant anybody ever grows. Like I defy you to give me one plant that mulching is not beneficial for.
Yeah.
You're going to have a better garden, and I tell you why, because your microorganisms, the bugs that keep our soil alive, are going to stay alive longer in warmer soil, which is what mulch provides. They're going to wake up sooner in warmer soil, which is what mulch provides. So you are literally just tuning yourself up for a better spring to be a lazy fall gardener. Like we were talking about it. We're lazy because we're just like tired, but it's beneficial in the spring. If you can handle some leaves and some kind of weird, ugly looks, which most people, anybody complaining, like, you're not out in the garden in the winter anyways. What are you whining about what the leaves look like?
Yeah.
You're not
Put
going to
some-
care until spring. And at that point, those leaves did you magic for the last 5 months, right? So lazy gardening is a wonderful thing in the fall. It will help you next spring.
I'm also lazy in the spring.
Well, Preach, brother.
It's we're not lazy in the spring. We're getting our butts kicked over here. All right, with that, guys, we recommend mulching and lazy guy gardening. All right, with that, we're gonna be kicking into kind of switching gears on our next episode. And if you're liking this, please go follow us on all mediums. And with that, we invite you to go live life in full color because plain is pretty boring. Thank you, guys.